There are challenges with this kind of solution because it's comprehensive across the entire company.
Mhm.
And I think one of the challenges is that people have preferences for tools and against tools. It doesn't matter what tool it is. If you take a tool and show it to 10 people, 5 people will say, I love it, and 5 people will say, I hate it every time, right? And one of the interesting things about Notion, as I've been wrestling with it inside of companies for 5 years now, is like if you look at what Shannon and I are doing in delivery, Annika and I are doing customer success, Celeste and I are doing in marketing. It has very little to do with Notion itself,
Mhm.
but we are using Notion as a forcing function to essentially interview ourselves into alignment for how that team wants to work.
Mhm.
Right? Like we've had to make so many policy decisions between, like Shannon and I will be working on something and need to escalate to Jeff, who's the VP of that department, to say, we can't actually configure Notion until we make a leadership decision on whether, when we say that a forecasted go live date is going to happen, what do we want finance to know about that? And so my encouragement to us, to you and me, and any SMB that wants to do this is, don't think about Notion as like, okay, it's a tool and I like it or I don't like it. And I tried to use it and I used a template and it didn't make sense. Like that's not what Notion's value proposition is, in my opinion. To me, what its value proposition is it creates a blank space that forces accountability of alignment inside a team and across teams. And that's time consuming. Like I refer to it as like interdepartmental marriage therapy. When you say this, she hears that. Can we
Yeah.
get agreement on what we mean when we use this language, you know?
Yeah.
But the fruit of that, like the fruit of that deep discovery and alignment, becomes customized software that like perfectly expresses your mission, your language, and your operating reality, you know? So um it's it's hard because it is a tool and people react to it like a tool, but and so like anyway, yeah. I was talking to Kate yesterday in implementation, and she was like, "Yeah, I, I'm starting to realize that I have a lot of spreadsheets that I'm tracking implementation team tasks in, and I can't see a big picture." And so I had kind of written off using Notion because that's like for other departments, but now I'm like, oh, everything's connected to it, so let's go get my stuff in there, you
Yeah.
know. But it just takes time for different teams to kind of get that realization of it's an expression of how you want to work, not a tool preference.
Yeah. And I think that's, really important, for anybody thinking about using Notion or any technology, they all come blank in some ways, like you have to like do the work to make the decisions to drive the behaviors that you want. And Notion has been an excellent organizing principle for us in like again forcing those decisions, driving buy-in at the top level of the organization, and then incrementally, building these systems. And we started this conversation saying, oh, we talked about this the first time 2 years ago. Well, we had an onboarding V1 out, a month later, really. Like we had
Mm-hmm.
the first vision of that. So like it wasn't, we didn't wait 2 years to like launch this perfect thing.
Yeah.
We put a V1 out there and then we played with it. We tried to break it and we're like, oh, wouldn't it be great? And we had somebody, a new hire, go through it and like, oh, well, did you think about doing it this way? And so it drives this like incremental, really collaborative environment, which that's what we want to have here. We want to solve problems.